Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. We continue with cricket. The fourth and final test of the Border Gavaskar series between hosts Australia and India at the Gaba in Brisbane is set to start at 8 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time. That is 7 o'clock in Jamaica. And that is just over 2 hours from now. You can catch the action, as we said, live on SportsMax. Former West Indies fast bowler Sir Curtly Ambrose, who is still with us live on the show today. Sir Curtly was part of the last team to come from behind and win a test series in Australia. That, in fact, is a colossal understatement. He wasn't just part of the team. He was the player of the series. That was 28 years ago when the Windies came from 1-0 down to win 2-1. Sir Curtly, do you see India doing the same here as you and the Windies did 28 years ago?
It's going to be a little difficult for India with all the injuries that they have. I mean, if they can, put out their best team, then they have a good chance of winning. But some of the players are injured at this moment, and that could really make a significant difference.
Yet, how difficult is it for touring teams to play at the Gaba? Because the Aussies have this tremendous record there. Their adrenaline seems to get pumped up when they play there, and foreign teams have difficulties.
Well, the Gaba is always a nice place to play. As a matter of fact, Brisbane has always been my favorite state in Australia. No disrespect to the others, but I just have a level of fear with Brisbane. But I'm playing at the Gaba. It's usually, the pitch is usually, basically equal. You can get something out of it as a bowler, and if you apply yourself enough, you can score some runs. So it is usually, a good cricket pitch.
What would India need? Well, first of all, we aren't sure how shattered their team is. We know they have several injury issues. A couple of their players have niggles, and I guess at 8 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time to know, we'll know exactly what 11 they will go in with. But how badly affected have India been by these injuries with regard to their chances in this test match?
They are affected badly. I mean, some of their leading players who you expect to carry some of the weight may not play, or if they do, they may not be 100%. So India, I think, at this point, is under more pressure than the Australians. So, like you mentioned, we'll see what happens when in a couple of hours.
Yeah, the Australian team has declined significantly in recent years, Sir Curtly, and they are so heavily dependent on players like Steve Smith and David Warner at the moment. Tim Paine is not your normal Australian captain. We know of Australian captains in the past whose stocks are significantly higher than Tim Paine's would be. How much is his job on the line here? Because he hasn't done very well, and there were some behavioral issues that flared up on his part in the third test.
Well, that's one of the things about, Australian cricket. I find that they will give you a chance to prove yourself. And they make no bones if they have to strip you of the captaincy or whatever. Unlike us here in the Caribbean. We in the Caribbean are different, but in those bigger countries, they give you a good chance, a good run, and if you don't measure up, then you're gone. So he might be under some pressure, Tim Paine.
Well, let's continue, Sir Curtly, because the third test in Sydney was marred by allegations of racial abuse by the Australian crowd towards the Indian team. Six spectators were ejected and the play was halted for nearly 10 minutes on day 4, following a complaint by the fast bowler Mohammad Siraj, who had been fielding near the boundary. Now, Siraj complained of racial abuse from a section of the crowd and said he heard the term brown dog directed at him. Now, the ICC, Cricket Australia and local police are probing the matter. The Australia captain Tim Paine is urging the Gaba crowd to treat India with respect.
It's all been said plenty of times. We don't condone the abuse of anyone, let alone from a sort of a racial standpoint. So, we want people to come along to Brisbane, enjoy the game of cricket, support Australia, support India, support the umpires if you like. But my suggestion is you leave the abuse at the gate and just respect the players, respect the game, and have a good time.
Right, racism. Sir Curtly, this is a massive
from the cricket, so that's a good thing at least.
Yeah, I was saying to you that the issue of racism is not new. It's not getting louder. It's just that we live in a society now where people are quick to call out these things. Even people who look like the people who are making the racist insults, they call out their colleagues, their friends, their family members, even who are engaged in this kind of issue. Is cricket in a position? Is cricket poised, you think, Sir Curtly, to be the sport that does? That makes the biggest move to stamp out racism among its participants?
I believe it is. I mean, the ICC, they understand that racism has no place in cricket, and they obviously are doing all that they can to stamp it out. Now, let's be real. You will never, ever completely get rid of it, because we still have one or two people who will say things. But once we can get the majority of it out of cricket, then we're going to be okay.
You know, I want to take you back somewhere, and I want to. I'm going to be careful with how I say it, because I don't want to draw you into criticizing anybody directly. But here's the thing: in 2017, I remember there was a dinner in Birmingham, and Jeff Boycott was asked about. Well, he commented on the lack of a knighthood to him. And we all know that there are 11 West Indians who have been knighted, including yourself, and all fully deserving, I must add. So 11 West Indians knighted. And Jeff Boycott said, well, maybe he will have to blacken up his face to get a knighthood, because knighthoods have been given to West Indians like confetti. Many people saw that as a racist remark. He said it was a joke. Isn't the problem, or part of the problem, Sir Curtly, that influential figures don't understand some of what they say? And some of what they think is just a joke or a throwaway comment is really a racial comment, and that they need to condition their own minds to act and speak better. And I use the Jeff Boycott incident as an example of that. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I heard, I saw that in the media stuff. I didn't hear it myself, but I heard about it. And even if he said it was a joke, and you're quite right, I agree with you, Jeff Boycott, as an international figure, has to understand that with all this racism going around, and he mentioned something like that, I could really paint a funny picture. So I thought, you know, he was kind of wrong he was wrong to say something like that, whether jokingly, knowing how right, you know, racism is. So I don't know, Jeff Walcott, he should have known better, to be quite frank.
Yeah. When Michael Holding gave his emotional contribution to the issue of racism and injustice and inequality last year, Sir Curtly, and he teared up, and he said, look, it has to start with education. And I'm going somewhere with this, because yesterday we heard from a former Australia cricketer, Sir Curtly, Ed Cowan, who said that, look, Australia, he's a white guy, a white ex-Australia cricketer. He said, Australia as a country is not just racist. He said it was very racist. And he said because the country has a problem, that's why you can see certain behavior at sporting events. And if you listen to what Tim Payne just said in the clip we played, Tim Payne said that he wants the fans to leave racism or leave abuse at the gate. No, Sir Curtly, he should be saying that they should change their mindset, not be racist when you leave the cricket match, but be non-racist when you are at the cricket match. It's about reforming your own thoughts and your own concept of the world so that racism becomes something that is not a part of you. And I want you to join me in that statement.
Yeah, I find it to be very, very strange. I mean, these guys have to understand, when you're a national figure or international figure, you know, people tend to listen to you a lot, and the words that you speak can carry a lot of weight. So you have to be very, very careful. And I was kind of surprised when I heard this Cohen fella talking about racism business. I mean, come on. And I agree with Mikey Holding. You mentioned Mikey Holding about education. I agree. We got to educate these people, you know, about this thing. I mean, this thing, I don't know. Like I said, it will never go away completely. But we can manage it. And for these guys who are saying those things, they got to be very careful.
Yeah, you know, we had Fazir Mohammed on the show yesterday, Sir Curtly, and I wanted to ask him if it is that there's a player, say for instance, a player on the boundary, plugged into the game, and there is a group of spectators in the crowd giving the player a hard time, and it goes racial. And I wanted to ask, well, what if the player loses his cool or her cool these days, runs into the stands to punch out that spectator, I'm sure the sporting world would cry shame on the player. And I'm not advocating violence from players to spectators, but Sir Curtly, this thing cuts so deep that it is likely that we could face a situation like that in the future.
I agree, because not everyone will have this certain amount of discipline to sort of ignore those racial abuse. Some of us can do it, right, and make complaints to the authorities, but some guys probably can't handle it and will lose your cool, and you're quite right. Maybe jump into the crowd and do what I gotta do. We're not saying it's right, it'd be wrong to do it, but these things can happen. So I won't be surprised if it happens at all at some point, because this thing has to stop. So I agree with you, yes, some guys are disciplined enough to keep their cool.
Yeah, and finally, just simple, a last comment from you. The test series, 3 tests, the ODI series rather, 3 ODIs, the tests, 2 tests, Bangladesh, West Indies, call them for me in terms of the result. Who's going to win them and by what margin?
Well, let me tell you this, right? I've been around cricket for too long to make predictions. Now, if I was a part of the team playing, back in my day, I could make predictions because I feel, with the ball in my hand, I could perform anything. You understand?
Yes.
Outside of that, I am really, really trying to stay clear of making predictions, right? But if I go on the limb, I would say 3 one-day games. Listen, you know what? Let me go train my principles. I don't get involved.
Thank you very much for your contribution today, man. Really appreciate it. I really wish you all the best this year.
Yeah, man, thanks a lot.
Good. So Curtly Ambrose there talking cricket with us. We take a break, lads, and we come right back with more.